This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species, and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.
On the road again.
Look at us, boys. On the road again, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoor Journal Radio podcast on the Outdoor Journal Radio Podcast Network.
Come on
Pete
now.
Bowman here, sitting with my boys, Steve Nadzwicki.
Give me a hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Mr. Nick. Mr. Nick and my own Dean Taylor, our own Dean Taylor, and Vova on the camera over there. And for those of you, you really should be watching this on YouTube because we are sitting at a campfire on the shores of the Minas Basin, which is attached to the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia. And we are on a road trip on our East Coast. What do you call it? Just a
swing.
What's all that clicking noise? What do you got going on there?
I was getting hulls. I'm a little coffee these
Okay,
days.
Nick has a cold. Yeah, that's okay. That's a good idea, buddy. Nick's got a nasty
cough. It is.
And
it is brutal. So I got 30 hulls, and that's gonna.
And Stevie's going to be. Might just crunch them up, boys. Do it all right now, and then it's all over.
There we go. Got a couple more out here.
The audience is gonna love this part.
Enjoy the ASMR, folks.
Yeah, Dean's gonna hate this. He's gonna try and get rid of it. Might as well leave the sounds right in there, Dean.
That's fire sounds.
Yeah, so we are in Nova Scotia on our East Coast trip. So we started in New Brunswick. We are now in Nova Scotia, and we are going to end this trip in New Brunswick for a 20-day total Fishing Canada shoot, which we have never done before. I know Ange and I have been on the road a lot and done some extended trips, but this one is really, this is the longest. Just the way it worked out, we have some days in between. So we just said, why we're going to drive all the way home or fly home and then come back a day or two later and finish this off. So we decided, let's just stay here. And so far, boys, it's been pretty outstanding.
It's been pretty awesome, for sure. Oh, yeah, no doubt.
We've done a lot of fish species in both provinces, but we'll stick on the Nova Scotia side here now on this one. And again, we're fishing the Bay of Fundy, Minas Basin. Basically, if you look on a map, you're going to see the Bay of Fundy is a massive, big bay coming in from the Atlantic Ocean. Kind of narrows down, then it opens up again into the back end of the bay, and that's the Minas Basin. And that's where this big tide, this up to 50-plus foot tide every day comes in. Well, not 50 foot every day. The tide comes in every day, but the highest tides are 50-plus feet. And we see it here every day right now. It's coming in, and it fills the Minas Basin in right to the end. It just sort of fills it up like a bathtub, and then all these little rivers like the Stewiacke, the Shubenacadie River, and all that water flows into these rivers, creates a tidal bore, and then goes back out, and it all goes back out to the ocean twice a day, right?
Twice a day.
It's absolutely incredible. So
it's pretty breathtaking, for sure.
It really is. It really is.
Like, what was it yesterday? We were watching the water level drop on the Garmin.
Yeah.
But every 15 minutes, we would look over. We were at 52 feet, 51 feet, 50 feet, 49, 48, 47. It was...
Yeah, you'd never see that anywhere else, right?
You could watch the water drop in real time.
Yeah. And our species here is striped bass. Sorry, Stevie, I'll just go quickly. Our species list is striped bass here is what we're looking for, and big stripers. We're catching other shitfish, they call them. There's sand sharks, or more like a dogfish. We see that in BC. Skates, we got a bunch of skates again today. Have we got
and
anything
those
else?
look like little manta rays. They're like little ray guys.
They're a weird looking dude. Have we got anything else, guys, on this trip or no?
No.
That's it. Skates and sharkies. Yeah, and the stripers. So what are your boys' thoughts so far on Nova Scotia and the Bay of Fundy and the striper fishing?
The one, and this goes back to the tide, and Greg Beliveau, our guide, gave us a stat that blew my mind. And into the Bay of Fundy, every day, more water rushes than all of the freshwater rivers in all of North America.
No, the world, he said.
The world.
Freshwater rivers in the world.
In the world. There's more water coming in and out of this, out of the Bay of Fundy and the Minas Basin in one day than all of the fresh water that's running in the world in the rivers.
Yeah, he stated that on the in and out of this tide that comes in, it's hundreds of billions of gallons per minute coming in and out. Like that's an insane amount of a stat.
We had the number on the episode that I did here a few years back.
Did you?
Yeah, I remember doing it for the VO, but I can't remember what the number is.
Tell us about that trip, and then we'll move on to this trip.
That trip was really cool. It was similar to this one, obviously. In the episode, it was me and Grandpa.
Yeah.
This one's gonna be me and you.
Yep.
And no, it was neat. It was basically just a big drop shot rig, a piece of herring, drop it down, and wait. Mm-hmm. Then you feel that rod load up, and
Do you remember the comparison of where we're fishing this year as to where we were fishing last year?
Yeah, last year we were at that big rock.
Last time,
sorry. Last time we were at a big rock.
Right.
You can actually see it. When the tide is out, you can see how massive this rock truly is. Mm-hmm. And then when that tide comes up, you're just seeing the top part. It's like an iceberg.
Just to let you know, Nick, and the audience will sort of get live through us here and that. So our first day out. Well, we fished two areas. So we went over to across the bay with Volvo the first time. That was nice and flat. And yesterday it was, or whatever, we went back to that rock.
Yeah,
that's what we filmed. So we filmed both areas so far.
Okay,
so back to your area. And
that's my point. I didn't even know you were fishing the rock because you can't even see it when the tide's up.
Yeah, it's just flat water. Well, it's not quite flat water. The water literally upwells in and out of this when the tide comes in. So these cliffs are, I think they're 30 feet high. This rock is something like 30 feet high, and it gets covered by 20 foot more of water. But that rush of water coming in, it blows up, and then it upwells, and you can see the white caps off of those islands, and then it mellows out again, and then does the same thing on the way out.
It's very impressive.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Yeah. Now fishing the tide, boys. Tell me about what your thoughts are on fishing this tide.
It's interesting. The tide, like they say here, the tide waits for no one.
Yeah.
So it's whenever it goes out, that's when you got to go. When it goes in, that's when you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That part's really interesting because normally on these shoots, we're up at the crack acid on, we're in the boat before light, or right at light, we're out, and we're there the whole day.
Yeah.
Here, like, what was it? The other day we got on the water at 1.
Today we got on 2, or 1 between 1 and 2.
And tomorrow it's going to be even later.
Yep. It's an hour later.
It's like, well, it's Vova's dream job, I'll tell you that much, because he always wants to start at noon.
Vova's loving it.
This is his favorite time of the year. But it's interesting. And having to leave right as the fishing's getting good, because that tide's going back out, is bizarre.
Yeah.
And it adds like another level of action, I would call it.
How long do you think we have out in these rocks, boys? What is our time on there from start to finish? How many hours are we fishing?
About 4.
4 hours.
Four and a half at most, and then you have to leave. You have, like Nick said, you gotta get back, or you can't put your truck or your boat back on the trailer because the boat launch is dry. You can't drive it into the boat launch. So. It's interesting.
It's crazy. And when you ask the question about how do you guys feel about fishing the tide, and I've done a lot of fishing, but you just don't understand how much current there truly is on such a big body of water when you're fishing the tide.
Yeah.
And we're basically fishing slip rigs. So we've got about a 30-inch leader, real heavy, 120-pound mono, I think is what we've been using.
We ran some 100-pound Yozuri hybrid too.
Yeah,
some of that on there too, and it worked really good. So.
To a swivel, and then there's it's basically just a snap on a plastic slide that rides above the swivel on your leader, and at points,
and that's on braid. That is on our braid. Our main line is braid.
That's right.
And we have our fluoro leaders or nylon leaders.
Yeah, and we're using, to give you an idea, 1.5 pounds of weight at some points.
26 ounces.
We anchor into the current, and then the current, and it's very it's almost ominous when you're out there and the anchor hooks and it feels like you're trolling, and the current is moving at 6 to 7 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Okay, and once you hook up and you drop your lines go straight back out behind the boat, and for as heavy as you would think this fishing is, the fishing for these striped bass is a lot like walleye fishing, because you'll feel them nibbling, like you'll feel them on the bait, and Greg Beliveau, our guide, he says, now just let him eat it, just let him nibble it, let him nibble it. And you got to really, and the other thing he always says is, you got to bow to the bass. And what he means is, when you're feeling these fish biting and chewing and grabbing that bait, you got to pick a time when you feel them really taking it and point your rod tip down to them to give them the slack, and then pull up, feel weight, and set the hook. And it's a lot like walleye fishing when you're fishing live bait as well. You can feel them down there just pecking at it, and then you got to try and time your hook set. It's a lot like that. But the current is ridiculous. And sometimes you can be in a wind that while we were the last couple of days, it's been up to 20 kilometer an hour winds. And the tide is so strong that the way that you think you should be anchored is exactly opposite. The wind, you're anchored into the current, and the wind is blowing at your back. Yeah. It's a very strange feeling, and it can be very dangerous. Like there was one aluminum boat that dropped the anchor, and with the current, the anchor rope will drift underneath your boat, and if it gets caught around the motor and it hooks up, or in the slack tide, your boat does exactly a 180, and if your prop gets caught in your anchor rope, it'll pull the stern of your boat right under. And there were a couple of young fellas out on the bay a couple of days ago that basically were within minutes of sinking their boat. Yeah. And it's it's unbelievable fishing, but the water is dangerous, and it doesn't really look that way. But I'll tell you what, when you go to a boat launch, and I haven't seen it at high tide because we've been fishing the high tide, but when we drop our boats in, we're driving like 200 yards away up a hill. And if you don't park way up there, your boat, your truck and trailer are going to go underwater. Like, I mean, tonight we had we didn't get we
won't say who parked Greg's truck, but he didn't do a great job of it because half of it was in the water. So.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's crazy the amount of change that you see here on a consistent basis, and it's ridiculous. And not to mention the sharks. We haven't actually had the experience. There you go,
Dino,
to see them. But apparently last week there were multiple shark sightings, and they have makos, great whites. So it's crazy. And you never know. It's not over yet. We may still see some sharks.
The trip is young.
You know what? I wonder if we have a constant. We've been barraged by an east or a east-northeast or a northeast wind this whole week, pretty much. And I wonder if that turns the sharks off as much as it turns fishing off.
Well, it could.
It could have, because they were here up until last week. They were seeing sharks on a daily basis. Everybody else was
video
counting. Yeah, and the fishing, there was a lot more 40-inch plus fish being caught, right? I understand the striper part. It's all about fishing, and Greg said the same thing. East wind is the worst. But I wonder if that affects the sharks too. I bet you it would. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're all in the same spot.
Right. You know what I mean? So the other thing, we'll get a little technical here. I don't know if Steve mentioned, he was talking about the bait. We're using herring here. So Amanda Perry, so Greg Bellevaux's wife, she prepares all the herring and gets it all. They have a little process that they do to make their herring a little different from everybody else. You buy the herring off of them, and we cut it at certain sizes. It depends on the bite, what's going on. If you want big fish, you should use almost a full herring or a big one, but then you can cut it down. If the current's strong, you kind of cut it down because it pulls so hard, like Stevie was saying, 7 mile an hour and all that stuff. And what they do is they use either the smallest hook they use is an 8/0 hook, And the largest they use is a 10-aught. So anybody that's listening that knows their hook sizes, a 10-aught hook is huge.
It's a big hook.
It's a big-ass hook.
And they are sharp.
Yeah. And even just tying your 100-pound, 120-pound mono or fluoro on there or hybrid, it's a chore to do, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
Stevie and
it's a two-man job.
Stevie and I did it as a two-man job, you know, with pliers, with pulling it and wetting it and all that. Yeah, so it's pretty neat. And they use ball bearing swivels to make sure everything runs really nice and smooth. And then Greg has there's two types of rods and reels you use. You can use a big heavy duty spinning rod and reel, or you can use a heavy duty bait caster. And I think most of us have been switching between them and all that. I prefer the bait caster on it. I just like the feel of it, the way you can drop it out. But the other thing we have done, I've been lucky to be able to do is I brought a bass, basically a bass rod, a heavy duty swim bait rod, and some of these new Yozuri saltwater lures. They're not big, but they're 3 ounces, which is a big fishing lure, right? In the world of bass and everything else, it's huge. But in the world of these guys or in muskies, it's probably not that small or not that big. But during the high tide or the incoming and outgoing, the peak of those tides, you can't fish a 3-ounce lure. It will not even hit the bottom. You'll be able to just spool your line out. It'll be gone. It's that strong. But when Steve said the slack tide, so that's when the tide decides, okay, I've gone in all the way, and now I'm going to start dumping out of the basin, or vice versa. And that time, your current is the slowest. So I took that 3-ouncer out with Nick.
It was so cool. It was
First
so cool.
cast, I threw it out, and I wasn't expecting it, and I said, boop, boop, and I said, Nick, I just had a bite.
You're missing a piece there. What we were seeing on the Garmin.
Oh yeah, I'll get into that in a second. And then it boop, boop, and then I said, Nick, I just had a bite. And he goes, no way. I says, yeah. And then all of a sudden, thump, and I got about a 4 or 5 pound striper on this bait, and it was just so cool doing that. And as we did that, we looked at the Garmin. Nick was saying. And on the LiveScope LVS 62 unit, so the saltwater unit, the heavy duty, the blue water unit, whatever you want to call it, that screen was lit up like we've never seen a screen lit up before.
Never seen that many fish on a screen before.
It was so awesome. And it was comparing it, and the strong tides, they were all close to the bottom, sometimes midway up. On this screen, they were from top to bottom and out about 40 feet at least. And it was just loaded with fish. So it was no wonder that I was going to get bit. So I thought, okay, we are on, buddy. Let's go.
We were happy as schoolgirls.
He grabbed a rod, I grabbed it. I said, let's go. Like that, we cast about 25 more times and we did not catch another fish. Fast forward to today. Nick, you weren't out today. So Steve and Dean and I were out pre-fishing or scouting this another new hump and all that. And I said the same thing, slack tide. Hey, boys, first cast, I popped one, but I caught him somewhere, I think I got him in the gill, little guy. 2 casts later, whoosh, threw it out, same thing. Pop, pop, boom. Got another one, brought him in. So much fun. I said, boys, I love this. And it's done. It was done again. It was like 2 fish.
Oh my God.
It was as fast over. So you would have to be like,
it's almost
I don't know how you'd have to time it.
After the first one, not to bite.
I don't. You'd think that, but I don't think it is.
I know, obviously,
but
it's
the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in fishing. How fast it goes on and off, and I could not. I tried today, and Stevie tried a musky bait, and Dean tried a sinking fly, just to try it all on the
fly.
Yeah, and nothing happened on any of that stuff except for that big Yozuri jig is the only thing. It was a saltwater jig, but just to let you know, we do try other stuff out here. But when that tide is at its peak, in or out, there's no way you can even fish those baits. You can't.
We even put some herring on the Yozuri at one point.
I did it again today. I put it on afterwards. Nothing.
It's bizarre.
It was craziness. It was I don't know what there must be a certain, maybe a 10-minute window that
it's got to be 5-minute window.
That's what it seems like. 2 days doing it. So I'm
gonna try. It's not the actual slack water. There's not a very long period of time.
It's not even slack, really, is it?
No. And but when you're using the kind of weight, we're constantly either upping weight and Greg's got, a 3 ounce, 5 ounce, 10 ounce, 16 ounce weights. And as the tide weakens, as you're coming closer to the slack period, when it's gone in and then it's going to come out or vice versa, we're constantly adjusting that weight because at the slack period, you're right under the boat.
Yeah.
You're straight under the boat.
Yeah. And we had to worry about tangling lines. We did it a couple times today. When it says slack tide, there's more control when there's pull and tide on that. Speaking of the tide, I don't know if anybody listening or watching has ever fished either the Niagara River or the St. Lawrence River or any strong river in, let's say, Canada and the inland rivers and all that stuff. But those rivers are usually running at The French would be slower, probably.
A lot slower.
But those rivers, I know that we used to fish this. Excuse me, Angelo and the St. Lawrence. If it was 3 miles an hour, it was ripping at 3 mile an hour. This is 7. See, Drake's at up to 8 sometimes.
And it doesn't look it. The water is very dangerous because it's unassuming.
Oh my God, it's
It's unassuming.
Yeah. Well, it does look it when you see that upwell, though.
Well, yeah, when you see
up those rocks.
that's
and the,
true.
And the,
It
and
looks
the,
like you're trolling.
Yeah,
when you're
off the
sitting
wake
there.
off the back of the boat. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Like it's and the scariest part to me,
Basically,
boys,
you are.
is
Well,
the scariest part to me is that anchoring setup. Now these guys have it all set up right. They have the electric anchors on the front of their boats. Well, we don't have that on our Prince Crab because we don't hardly ever use anchors. We have power poles. We have a trolling motor with anchor mode on it. We don't really use anchors that much. So we made up an anchor for this. We got we bored a 7-pound anchor off Greg. We have a 20-foot of chain because the chain brings your anchor down to the bottom so your rope isn't floating up and giving you a bad angle so you can drag into the rocks. We put I think 150 foot of rope on our anchor on top of that. And then basically we have to sit there, and Dean was doing it. Dean has to drop the anchor straight down as I'm take the boat and put it in neutral so that it kind of, and then bump it forward, bump it back, so it goes right down to the bottom. And then we got to put it in either reverse or let it drift away from the rope. Dean lets all the rope, and then all of a sudden we come to the end of the rope. We just let it all out. We don't care about where we are sitting exactly. And then all of a sudden you got to wait for that anchor to grab. Now it's dragging along this rocky ocean floor now and all that. And then if it grabs, it grabs. If it doesn't, remember last year, Nick, last time here we had a hard time. This time it grabbed a couple of good times. We had a couple of good grabs. It finally dug in twice, I think yesterday. It let go, right? We were just fishing away and all of a sudden we're seeing the boats all moving this way. And we're thinking, what the hell's going on? Well, that's us moving backwards because our anchor let go. But the hardest part is lifting that sucker back in.
And you know what? I gotta give Dean, I gotta give you some props because me and Vova did it twice.
Yesterday.
And it took both of us. Like the first one I did about 70% and I couldn't feel my hands anymore.
Yeah.
Vova came in and saved my ass. The next time I said, Vova, you're getting up here with me. I'm not doing it alone.
Yeah.
And it left both of us.
Oh yeah, they
That's
both were
hard,
tired. Yeah,
It's a hard job.
and
a lot of rope.
you
It's
couldn't
a
do
lot.
it without the assist of the motor.
No,
Literally
never.
have to put the motor in gear and steer forward very slow, trolling speed, just so that it stays up with the boys. And then I'm watching them pull that rope in because, as Steve said, if the rope gets too far behind, it gets around the motor or something like that, then you're in real trouble. Or you cut your anchor rope with a prop. It could be many things that happen like that, right? So that's one of the freakiest things to me is that anchoring when you have the handballman in and out like that. That's a tough gig.
And when it doesn't catch, or when it breaks loose, it's freaky.
Oh yeah,
it happened with
you're
us.
moving.
Hell, you got snagged up and it broke loose.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
That's right.
That was like panic.
That's right.
Because
that
Yozuri, that Yozuri leader and the braid, you can't break that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It does not. It will tow the boat.
I said, I started to panic. I said, boys, I called the other boat. I said, boys, I'm snagged up. The anchor gave in. Either my bait hung up or my weights hung up, and there was no cleats that you could really wrap it around because basically what you do is you wrap it around a cleat and try and break your line. But even that can get you in trouble if you got a heavy enough braid it can hold your boat. You know what I mean? So,
and then all of a sudden you snapped.
Yeah,
which is very weird.
Finally popped and right to the braid. It was the braid somewhere in there. So that was a scary moment of my life. So
And you would be surprised, even with the braid, how much resistance it has in the water against that tide. So when you drop your rope down, that rope gets pulled in the force of the tide. Just like whenever you're dropping those big weights down on the slide, if you don't drop it down and then wait for the weight to catch up, that weight drops and then it creates a loop in your line.
Yeah, like a bow. Right?
Yeah, and that bow can it's very strong, and it's something that you got to get used to the feel for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking on line, the stripers have this knack of being able to twist your leader around the slide. And we saw that a couple times when you pull it back up to check your bait. And it is so tangled and mangled looking.
We had a striper today. I had a striper today that literally put my herring above the swivel. Remember that, boys?
Oh, yeah.
2.5, 3 feet up current. It was above this. Greg says, how the hell did you do that? How did that happen like that? The bizarre stuff happens
very
down there.
bizarre.
Let's talk about the fish. We haven't got any giants yet.
No.
But we've got some good
Some
ones.
good ones. We had
Numbers.
that mid 30s the other
numbers,
day.
yeah. Greg got a 30-inch today. We were just farting around hitting
Yeah.
new spots. Stevie got a 27, I think.
Today. Yeah.
And then
That one at the end of yesterday was really cool. The one I got.
that was a big one too. That
It was
a
big,
nice
but
one.
it wasn't long. That was the
Yeah.
problem. If it
Fat.
was disproportionately fat.
Yeah.
Right? So if it was as long as it was fat, it would have been a
Oh, it would
massive
have been a
fish.
beast for sure.
Beast.
It shows that they're probably different stages of eating too, because some of them are really fat, and there are some that are quite lean in here.
A couple
too,
of the
right?
ones today were fairly lean.
Yeah, I was surprised to
Yeah.
seeing that. At least long fish, but they didn't seem
Yeah.
to be full of bellies. But I'm not sure. But I know. Greg and all the boys, they all talk about that 40-inch mark is the number here. It's like a pike, right? That 40 inch is the number.
It's like a
to try and
50-inch muskie.
Exactly. It's like a 20-inch bass. It's like a 30-inch walleye. You know what I mean? They always have these numbers, and that 40-inch number is what they're all striving for. And that would be over 20 pounds for sure, because
that'd be a
40-inch
big
northern
Oh yeah,
is
no.
over
I
20,
think
you know?
I think he was saying that Greg got a 41, and it was 35 pounds, and a 42 and a half
Really?
was
That's-
37 pounds.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a 36 the first day, and I'll tell you, these fish are so strong.
Oh man.
Our buddy Jeff Wilson over in the Miramichi calls them South Compton fish, because they're so tough.
Yeah, they are.
Right?
They really are.
And you couple a 36-inch fish that's strong because they're constantly swimming in current with a 7-mile-an-hour current.
Yeah.
It's crazy how hard they pull.
Yeah.
Well,
and they eat it. I was asking them today. I said, "Well, okay, what's their diet down there? Because they're going to be eating fish, et cetera, et cetera." I says, "But they're a tough fish. Their mouths are tough. Everything. They seem to have, this different attitude than any other bass in the world or whatever." And he says they catch so many with crabs and full lobsters and
No
everything else.
way.
Yeah,
Wow.
and their guts. They say they'll just crush and kill anything. As long as it's edible, they eat it. Yeah. So pretty insane to hear stuff like that. And these guys they're predators. They are an absolute apex predator.
They are.
Except for the shark and anything bigger than them down here, right? But
Speaking of shark, it was interesting that first day that me and you went out, when the dogfish came in,
yeah,
the stripers went away.
Gandhi.
Gone.
They were done.
Gone. The second that
Yeah.
we started getting multiple dogfish, we didn't get a single striper the rest of the day.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what that was at the slack tide too. That was for some reason after the turn.
Yeah.
It slacked after the
It
turn.
slacked,
So
the dogfish came in,
Yeah.
the stripers went out.
and that could be to do with the structure too, because we're fishing.
be.
See, basically, we're not fishing like we normally would do. Normally, we are moving and grooving and moving and looking and moving and everything else. And this stuff, we're anchored in one spot and we're fishing too, because we're anchored one way, and then the tide changes. We're anchored and we're moving the other way, 200 feet away.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bizarre that we don't move around, but there's not enough time. There's only 5 hours or 4 hours or whatever, and the anchoring system, as we just told you, is just nuts to try and lift and drop and lift and drop. The ultimate way of fishing these guys would be to move around a little bit at least. You know what I mean? Especially on slack, high, and low tides.
Yeah.
So
If there was a way to have an electric trolling motor on the front
that
was
would hold
powerful
them
enough
it would-
to be able to get through that tide efficiently.
Yeah, we could. Our Garmin wouldn't do it. Ans and I done it so many times in the St. Lawrence River with a 36 volt Garmin, and that's 100-ish pounds thrust, and it does a great job in 2 to 3 mile an hour current. But
No, double
we need
to
3
triple it.
batteries. We need 3 batteries to last all day long on it. You know what I mean?
No
2
way.
batteries. And one single battery, I don't think would do it. And
No
out
way.
here, there's no way you could do it. You'd need 3 trolling motors, all just stacked to do it. Like,
With a
holy
9.9
shit.
on the back just to help out.
Yeah. It's just it'd be the only way you could do it. So that's the downfall to what we're doing here. Is in my opinion, is just we're not fishing the structure the way we should be, but we can't. It's just you can't. You have to anchor and hope the fish come to you, sort of thing, right? So. That's the weird part to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre. But the bite is like Stevie said, the bite is insane.
Numbers are ridiculous.
Tap, tap,
Oh,
tap.
yeah.
You got
On that bite, yeah, that's-
40-incher, it'll do. You'll think there's a perch down there. What's he doing down there? And all of a sudden, boom, loads up.
But it's you compare it to walleye fishing, but walleye hit relatively light on those taps. These taps, something's down
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's-
yeah.
there. It's we're saying nibbles
Yeah.
and taps. It's like a punch.
Yeah.
It's getting punched
Like,
down.
I mean,
you know it's there.
You know it's there.
You know it's there.
pull the rod for sure.
Now, what's the most unique thing that's happened in this shoot so far, boys? I got it in my head right now.
I got mine. It's the first ever, I think.
Huh.
Go ahead, Nick.
It's the skate and the pliers.
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you? Go ahead. You can tell the story.
So, it's the first ever skate. Like I said, this little stingray that we caught out there. And I didn't know I got one. Truth be told, I was reeling in to check if I had any herring left, because you got to do that every few minutes, check if you got bait left on the line. As I'm reeling up, it's just way heavier than it should be. And 3/4 of the way, then there's some sort of small fight, but it's nothing. And there's a little skate on the end of the line on the hook, and I got him right in the side.
In the fin, like
in the fin, like I said, they're like manta rays, right? So right in that wing he's got.
Wing, yeah, exactly.
That's a good way to put it. His wing. And
right through the meat, right through.
Like it was good. It was a few inches into that wing. I snagged him bad. I felt bad for the ray. And Pete, you've seen him on the show for years. This pair of blue needle nose pliers.
Yeah, with a nice little hand strap.
Nice hand strap, nice wrist strap. You can put around. No chance of dropping it. No.
Yeah.
And Pete, being the kind scholar that he is, said, "I'm going to get the hook out for you, Nick, so you don't kind of get stung by this skate." I said, well, thank you. So he's trying, and this skate, like we got it all on camera. It is doing its damnedest to sting Pete. Like Pete, it would stop. He stops. Pete goes right towards. Its tail's up, and it's trying to hit him. It gets to a point where we think it's calmed down, and Pete goes again, and it snaps real quick. Pete screams, throws the pliers.
It just dropped him.
Just dropped.
Into the ocean.
Gone. Forever gone.
I looked like the biggest bitch, wimpy pussy that ever fished. And I screamed like a little girl almost. I didn't scream, but I scared the shit out of me. Man. It was so, and apparently, Nick had kind of put the fear of God in him. He's talking about Steve
Irwin
dying from that. And it made me think they're poisonous. But today I found out they're not poisonous, but they will give you a good shock. A good cut and a laceration and sting, and it'll last. And same with the dogfish and all that. So
dogfish they do have
they have two of them on there.
Venom on there.
Dogfish got a venom.
Yeah, but he says they're still not. You just stings
You're not going
2
to
days.
die.
Yeah, you're not going to die.
The big ones will get you.
But all these fish, folks, I'm telling you, these skates and these dogfish, they have on their tails, they have these stingers, and they try to nail you with it every time. It's
and they're accurate.
They are pissed off.
They're accurate.
Oh yeah, they want to get you every time. And they're meaty, so you got to get your pliers when you try to take a hook out of a fish. You got to get around that round part of the plier. Well, if you're trying to do that, this asshole's tail's coming up and trying to whack you 20 times, like in a.
If anybody's ever held a snake by the tail.
Yeah.
That's what you're kind of trying to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly. It's insane, but.
Back in 2016, Frank and I had a vision to amass the single largest database of muskie angling education material anywhere in the world.
Our dream was to harness the knowledge of this amazing community and share it with passionate anglers just like you.
Thus, the Ugly Pike podcast was born and quickly grew to become one of the top fishing podcasts in North America.
Step into the world of angling adventures and embrace the thrill of the catch with the Ugly Pike podcast. Join us on our quest to understand what makes us different as anglers and to uncover what it takes to go after the infamous fish of 10,000 casts.
The Ugly Pike podcast isn't just about fishing. It's about creating a tight-knit community of passionate anglers who share the same love for the sport. Through laughter, through camaraderie, and an unwavering spirit of adventure, this podcast will bring people together.
Subscribe now and never miss a moment of our angling adventures. Tight lines, everyone.
Find Ugly Pike now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
We interrupt this program to bring you the much-anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. This week's code is Striper. That's Striper. S-T-R-I-P-E-R, all uppercase. And don't forget, that's 1 P. Just type that in the bonus code section of the contest and receive 100 free entries towards all our current giveaways. For those who haven't entered yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Head on over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. And now, back to the show.
So any other thing you guys are thinking of? Because I got one. I know I'm going to...
I have one.
Okay.
One of the most unique things for me coming out east, and I've been out east a couple of times, but it's the people. When we got here, they had Greg had organized this lobster meal and live entertainment and I mean the town of Economy where we're at, it's not a big town, and I am pretty sure that just about everybody that lives here was here with us, you know, with the live band and that hospitality from start to finish hasn't changed, you know, and it's so wonderful to come to a place where the people are just so freaking nice. Like, I mean, it's everybody. You know, we had the door open, the garage door one night, and we were sitting on a picnic table playing poker, and, you know, Brandon rolls in and, hey, boys, how you doing? You mind if we come in for a beer? And the next thing you know, there's a party in the garage. And great people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Salt of the earth, man. Salt of the earth.
I thought you guys would get this. I was hinting at it. So this Fishing Canada shoot has a one of, and it'll probably never happen again. And our good friend Joe Anthony from Cape Breton Island was been with us here for a couple of days fishing, and God love him. And then all of a sudden, Joe owns is part owner of a helicopter company, and they do all the, you know, whatever search and rescue to firefighting to whatever the helicopters they need. He says, you boys want to go for a helicopter ride?
That was
he literally
extraordinary.
came over to Greg Belivo's place, landed her on the grass. We all get in the helicopter, and we are flying up and down the Bay of Fundy shorelines. It was just the most extraordinary thing. It was the coolest thing ever. Joe didn't even go. He just said, you go, boys, have fun. You know what I mean?
We'll get some of those up on our Instagram after this.
Yeah, I drove all right. Yeah. Joe got in to pretend he was going to drive. I said, get the hell out of here. I said, you're not doing that. So I thought that was pretty damn cool.
And Joe's pilot, Matt, is a pretty cool dude.
Oh,
too.
great
cool
guy.
Dude.
Great guy. So that was pretty neat. Is that right, boys?
No, it was neat. For Matt, the ride was awesome. He was was it the sea horse commander?
I don't know. He's in the Navy, right?
In the Navy. He by the age of 23.
Or was it the Air Force?
He was
Navy, I think, right?
An Air Force
squad
he
commander.
Flew huge helicopters, and you're right. It's one of the largest helicopters that we have here in Canada.
I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, we don't know the name.
C something, and he was the commander at the age of 23.
Yeah, captain. He was a captain.
Captain.
I remember he said the captain.
Captain, captain, not
ranking
commander.
And all that. We've got a great pilot, great guy, and
awesome
him and
guy.
Joe. I think they're doing an awesome job. They're buying more helicopters.
They got three now.
Thank you, Joe, for that
Yes,
ride. That
Joe.
was for
Thank
the
you
boys.
very
That
much.
was pretty amazing. It was all three of you guys was your first helicopter ride.
Yes,
right?
it was.
Yeah,
and this was not just any freaking helicopter. This isn't the helicopter that you see on TV on that 1980s show. You know,
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI. This is a Cadillac. It was all leather interior.
Oh, sweet.
It would hold 5 in the pilot.
Do you remember what he said that interior was worth?
Yeah, I remember what he said the interior's worth. It's like 30 G's Canadian, I think. Like, I mean, but everything, hey, listen, it's a helicopter. Everything on a helicopter is expensive.
For those who know helicopters, it was a Bell 407.
Is that what it was? 407, yeah.
Bell
407 or 409?
This one was the 407.
Yeah,
I think he has the
it was a
409.
407.
It was a Bell 407. It was the coolest
sweet
helicopter
Sweet.
ever.
What a great way to literally view the Bay of Fundy.
Oh.
I mean, it was just incredible, the sight.
And it was at low tide too.
Yeah, it was so cool. You can see the banks. Well, we got some pictures going up as we speak of some from the helicopter, the aerial pictures and stuff like that, and videos, and it'll be included in the show too, because Vova shot it all too. So I'm sure we can punch a little bit of that into the show and all that stuff. So. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, anything else, boys?
The camera guys always get the best seat.
Oh, we gave it to him too. Bova's got to go.
Northern Rockies Lodge, you got it
paper,
too.
scissors it.
And then, is that okay, Bova? Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked him,
No, it's more like, yes, I should go there.
No, I asked him when we got off, how was that? It was cool.
Yeah. It was.
That was it. It
Yeah,
was
but
cool.
that's like a 9.5 for
Yeah,
Volvo.
Volvo's got
that's
a very
jumping for
chill-
joy.
That's okay.
He's a chill attitude.
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very nonchalant.
Anything else, boys? I'm just pulling this out only because I have some special thanks to
Oh,
do at the
good.
end of this. So, what else you guys want to?
I want
Get
to talk
on.
about how the tide changes how strong that fish can fight,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
and like we said, it's up to 8 miles an hour at max for that current. And that big fat fish, the skinny one I was talking about earlier, it was pulling drags when I caught it. So I immediately thought I got a 40 plus. Like I was freaking. I was like, Pete, you gotta get the net, get shit together because this fish is pulling
Yeah.
and pulling and pulling. And once we got in, we realized it's only pulling drag because it's going with the current.
Yeah, but it was a big fish.
It was still a
but-
big fish, don't get me wrong, but we had
Yeah.
a bigger one a few days before and it didn't pull.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
you're right.
one, smaller with the current, was ripping drag out.
Yeah. Yeah, the current they use it to their advantage. Right?
Oh, yeah.
and they fight. The thing about current related fish, being tide, be it a river, be it whatever, is these fish live in this current, tide, whatever, every day of their life. So they build it. It's like Mr. Taylor beside me here going to the gym every day. He ain't getting weaker going to the gym. He's getting stronger going to the gym every day. These fish are the same thing. They just fight that current. They learn how to swim as best they can to save energy, but they're stronger and stronger and stronger. So when you take a smallmouth bass that's in St. Lawrence River versus a smallmouth bass in Lake Ontario and you put them tail to tail, I pretty much guarantee if they're the same size, that St. Lawrence River fish is going to outpull the other one.
Oh,
so they just build
absolutely.
strength. They just build
for
strength
sure.
They're
and
just
muscle.
stronger. They got more working out to do.
Yeah, there's lots of muscle in it. So
There's that, and there's
Excuse me.
and for those of you out there listening and have heard we're fishing for striped bass, that's exactly what we're doing. But it's also called sea bass.
yeah,
And when you go to the store and you see sea bass, that is what we're fishing.
It tastes.
And
Oh,
it
yeah, we had a fish
tastes
fry.
Oh, it tastes so good.
Outstanding.
yeah. Another special thanks to Joe Anthony because he set us up some crab because that's another business. It's a crab
Yeah.
business. So we did that, and we kept 2 fish. And
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna do it again tomorrow, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
The seafood out here in Nova Scotia is second to none. Like, I mean, I'm going to have to do this in Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland too to compare. But
Oh, yeah.
so far,
Yeah.
man, the seafood
that
here
striper.
and the clams
Oh,
at
the clams.
Diane's.
Yeah.
The fried
oh
clams.
my God.
Yeah, world class for
Yeah.
sure.
I'll tell you, I have some friends who say they don't like seafood, and they've never eaten fresh seafood before.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Dean, for example, he had never actually had crab up until the other day.
Right.
I don't think I would say I liked crab if I'd never actually had fresh crab.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
Right.
You're probably right.
It's
It was
a
so good.
game changer.
But
It's a
that, you know
game
what?
changer.
The crab is one thing, but just to let people know, the striped bass, that's sea bass, as Steve called
Yeah.
it, Chilean sea bass, it is one of the finest eating fish that you will ever have. It's honestly, it is so flaky, so perfect. It's like
It's
if you love
perfect.
walleye and pike, it is as close to that as you're ever going to get, maybe better.
I think it's
You
better.
know what I mean?
Well,
It's
the way
so-
you cooked it the other
Yeah.
day, I think is better than walleye.
When we breaded that and you slow seared it in the pan,
Yeah.
and we wrapped some up and took it in the boat the next day. That shit cold was better than KFC cold, man.
No.
I'm not shitting you. It was
Better than cold KFC.
outstanding.
Yeah, right
Like,
on,
I mean, it's like chicken.
Yeah.
Wow,
So good.
It is really truly.
I was glad that we had, because Stevie said, "Oh, we only have butter to cook it in," and I said, "That's fine." He says, "No, it'll burn." I said, "Not the way I cook it, buddy.
No.
I cook it nice and slow." And Steve, I don't think Stevie had really expected how slow I cooked. I just watched it. You know, just
No,
watch
it was
and-
beautiful.
and
Like, it
just,
took
yeah.
20 minutes to cook these
Yeah.
fillets
Yeah.
on like low to not even close to medium.
Yep.
And it browned up beautifully,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah, it's
crispy. The next day it wasn't all that crispy, but
Yeah.
it was so
It was
good.
And that's
delightful.
with, only with breadcrumbs on it. So this
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
Nick went and got us some garlic powder today,
Yeah.
so we're gonna put some nice garlic. That'll
So
make it
I'm
a
excited for
little
that. I'm a
better
garlic
that,
head.
so,
I love
yeah.
garlic.
So
very
that
excited.
that was outstanding for sure, boys. And we're gonna have it again tomorrow night. So anything else, lads, before we Chipper out. Dino, what do you got?
The pliers going out is driving me nuts.
I hear you.
I'm,
It's getting colder.
I'm in charge of that thing.
All right, well, you
Yeah,
can't
she's
get
dying.
to it. Yeah, you can't do it with that. So I'm going to just throw out some special thanks here for this trip here, guys, because I think we really need to do this. We talked about Greg Beliveau and Amanda, and they are for Bass Barn Charters. So Amanda Perry is his wife. They're just different names. And Amanda prepares the baits, prepares the leaders, does all that. Greg does all the chartering.
She looks after Greg.
She looks after Greg for sure.
Big job.
He's got a big Volky boat with a 140 horsepower motor on it. It's a solid boat. I mean, when you go out with Greg, you're not gonna get wet. He knows this stuff. He's very unique. He's a very unique East Coaster. I'll tell you what, he's such a riot. He'll have you in stitches all day long.
Oh,
He'll
yeah.
have you easy up, easy down. He'll have you doing all his
yeah.
techniques
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that. He's the best.
He shows you how to catch
He's
him,
like
boy.
the
Yeah.
master in the Karate Kid.
Yeah. And then as Stevie said, Diane's restaurant with the baked clams, they literally they have people coming from Halifax over to here for the baked clams. They drive for hours, two of them, or fried clams.
And
for
they have their own
hours.
clam factory
Right
with
down
80
the road.
pickers right
That's
here, right out the
So
out on the.
that's how fresh it is.
It's right from the shore here.
Yeah. Davis Food Market and Seafood. We got a lot of our goods for the boat in there, and they're right up the road here again. Because this is an economy. I didn't even think we said that. It's in economy Nova Scotia, and it's a very small, like a town of 300 or something like that at most.
I think that's. I
Very
heard Greg
tiny.
say 300.
Yeah, it's very tiny, but all this stuff is all together. And again, with the hospitality he was talking about in these places, it is ridiculous. We're staying at KMA Lighthouse Rentals, so you can't see it, but right there behind Vova is where Stevie and I are staying in a lighthouse. We're literally living
love
in a
shack.
lighthouse
It
in
is
the love
cool.
shack.
The love shack.
Yeah,
Top
on the
floor is
top
the
floor
love
of the
shack.
love shack, baby.
Yeah. Stevie was snoring. Stevie got snoring one night. Boy, I'll tell
Last
you.
night,
I
I
said,
think.
I
No,
said
not
they don't
last
need no
night.
friggin' light going around there. You just have to listen for Stevie's snoring, for Christ's sakes. He had her going good. And then the boys were up at the top in a bed and breakfast area up there. A beautiful.
Kenny
up
Ma.
there.
Kenny Ma is
Kenny Ma.
the
Kenny,
owner.
great
yeah.
guy. Kenny
Yeah,
likes to
give-
fish too. He's got a boat right in the garage. He
Yeah.
goes out every day with us. He's going out
Oh,
there
yeah.
with us. So we're going to the Four Seasons next. So it's another facility that Nick and I and Ann stayed at the last time we were here in 2019. Another beautiful place, and there's some shoreline fishing if you want to do it. We're there too. It's down the road a little bit further from us, but not far. Go ahead.
Fun fact: my grandfather gave me this jacket at that Four Seasons 5 years ago.
Wow.
That is just
Look
cool.
at
That
you.
was not
Wow,
planned,
that's
by the
fun.
way. That just popped in my head right now.
You're almost as much a dick as Dean is. Stop it, Stephen. The Four Seasons.
I'm just
and
playing
I
it.
want to throw a special thanks
You know
out
I
for Peter Swim, who's we met here.
Yes.
He supplied the lobster for us at this lobster fest we had the other night. So thanks so much, Peter, for that. Peter works in the lobster industry and all that stuff, and he just has supplied everybody with these great lobsters, a lobster meal. So, and that's typical of the East Coast. Oh, you guys need lobsters? Here you go. Here's 20 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever they give you, or 30 lobsters. Well, that doesn't matter to them. There's no price on it. The value is just
and
let's
such a
be
great
happy.
guy.
Oh my God!
And folks,
attitude. He laughs. When he gets
Oh.
laughing, I had him laughing today. I heard him howling.
yeah,
We were having
and
a riot.
Donnie, his buddy, his fishing buddy,
Yeah.
they're all so good. And whenever you're watching the episode that airs from here, if our time lapse makes the cut, that was right from Peter's backyard.
Yeah. So we
You
needed a
know?
place to watch the tide come in and out, and Peter says, "Hey, go into my backyard." And Volvo put the camera up there. We picked it up today. Volvo, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you think? You're going to get a good one? Thumbs
Oh,
up
yeah,
from Volvo.
we
You know
got
it's going to be
the-
good. You know it's going to be good. And
Oh,
Volvo
yeah.
had the thumbs up. That's all
Yeah.
it was. So, so it's a special thanks to all those people. And then everybody we've met here, and again, to this East Coast. To anybody who has not been to Canada's East Coast, I am telling you, we are telling you, it is the place to go for hospitality, for things to do, for sightseeing. We stopped in antique shops today. It was
Yeah.
like, everything. It just doesn't matter. Our
Man.
waitress over at the Double C's
Diner.
restaurant, and
Yeah.
I don't even know what town that's in. She is friggin' hilarious. Like she had us in stitches.
The best.
And everybody's like that. It's just an insane attitude that they have here. And I mean,
Well, nobody gets offended.
Well,
No, it's
And I've
You're
never
right.
heard anyone been able to shut up Pete before.
I did not
tried.
shut up.
Yeah, shut up.
Put
She,
you in your place a little
she,
bit for sure.
She said, I'll come on your fishing show and we'll call it Hold My Pole Fishing. That's these type of people here. So, oh, God. So anyways, thanks everybody for listening, tuning in, et cetera, the Outdoor Journal Radio podcast. Dean Taylor, Steve Nazicki, Nikki V, Boba, and Bo Rod. P. Bowman. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species, and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.